So I was in Hartford, Connecticut. I was studying at the University of Hartford, and I was walking home from a Halloween party, 6 a.m. November 1st. I was walking home, and I remember I wanted to take a shortcut home instead of going the long way. And so I went through a rough part of downtown, and this guy came up behind me, said, "Give me everything you have, I have a knife." And so I'm a pretty big guy, 6'4", around 260, and I turned around and laughed at him because he was a shorter, skinnier guy, and I only had $40. So I looked at him, laughed, said, "Man, I only have $40, and he went in one time. And then I turned my back, put my hands on the wall. He started patting me down, and for some reason, I thought I was going to be like in a movie. Like I was like, oh, movie time, I'm going to turn around, clock him one good time, and run away. So when I turned around, he was just right here. And so I kind of brushed his shoulder, and then he started just going in. And so I started fighting with him. I slipped on my own blood and landed on my back. That's when he got on top of me, tried to stab my face, caught the knife, and then he started like mushing my face and saying, "Do you want to die tonight? Do you want to die tonight?" I said no. And then that's when he got up, started banging his head on the wall, and then looked down at me and said, "Man, you have to go to the hospital." I was like, okay. So I got up, I called my stepdad first for some reason. He had been stabbed before, and I was like, he probably knows what I should do. So I called the ambulance. I walked around after that for about 10 minutes waiting for the ambulance. Whenever that happened, I was just bleeding, and the police came, and the first thing that I asked the policeman was, "Man, I know this is a bad time, but can I have a cigarette?" Because I just needed to relax. So with the great medical expertise of the Hartford Police Department, they said, "Here, sit on the hood of my car." So the ambulance came, and then I remember just feeling a relief. I don't know if it was a God thing, if it was the drugs that they gave me, but I felt like a pressure of relief. And right at that moment, my phone started to buzz. And I looked at the paramedic and said, "It's my mom. I know it is. Can I answer it?" And so I answered the phone, and in the most calm way that I could, I said, "Hey, I've been stabbed. I'm okay. I'm going to the hospital." And she said, "Okay, I'm on the next flight there." So I get to the hospital. They do like a routine exploration type thing. I die 4 times on the table. They bring me back each time, and then I wake up.
How many times were you stabbed?
6.
6.
Yeah.
All in the chest area?
Twice in the stomach, twice in the chest, and then twice in the arm.
And so that was put for this?
So while I was in Hartford, I wrote things before the whole stabbing thing. And the end goal was always a book, but I never thought that I could put so many words together to make that. So I was writing a collection of short stories based on the 7 deadly sins. And I was just struggling with it, and I didn't know what I would do next. And I was dealing with a lot of mental illness, just major depression, anxiety, all of that stuff. And so basically leading up to the stabbing, I wanted to die. I wanted to just end it and get it all through. I had thoughts of suicide, and then the stabbing happened, and it was just this life-changing thing. I knew that I had a purpose. I wouldn't have died 4 times and came back each of the 4 times if I didn't have something to live for. So I came home. I had 55 staples all through my stomach. And I started working at Candyland in Andalusia. And I kept on writing, and I started working at the Andalusia Star-News as a part-time reporter, just because I wanted to keep on writing. And I remember I traveled to Florella, Alabama, every weekend to write. And like I said, this series of short stories just wouldn't connect. It just wouldn't make it into a book. So I was thinking what kind of central storyline would fit to make a book. And I remember sitting in Florella, and their hospital shut down about, I don't want to get the date wrong, but a long time ago. And I remember thinking, that's something that's happening a lot to rural communities. And this is something that needs to be on the forefront of news and books and stuff like that, because people are losing health care. So with the mental illness healthcare type thing, I knew that was a great plot. And then with the main character coming home to his hometown, it was kind of like a symbolic I came home type thing. So.
And you used to get through those times.
Yeah, so when I was up there, it was hard. I mean, I was away from home, I was alone, and I was just dealing with a lot. And so up there, writing was my coping mechanism. So I would kind of just funnel all of my thoughts onto paper. And that's why this book is kind of, it's not a children's book, let's just say. But when I got home and I knew that I needed to get my life on the right track, I started going to therapy every week. Started talking about my problems. Medication is another big one. I'm a full proponent of medication and therapy. If you're not getting the two, that's for me. People have several different other things. But for me, it was medication and therapy. And through therapy, I got these coping mechanisms that helped me, like writing, like taking a breath, like assessing the situation from an outside point of view. Because if you're in your head this whole time, you're just gonna get worse. So if you take a step back and say, what can I do to better the situation? Then so the characters in this book, they kind of represent a different form of mental illness. So if you're dealing with body dysmorphia issues, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with depression, it's all in there. I tried to make sure that I reached each aspect of mental illness. So, and then a lot of people ask, well, is the main character you? Not necessarily. It's every single part. Every character has a single part of me because of that specific mental illness that I had. I wanted to.
We're rolling.
So I have a little connection to Dothan. When I was little, I played soccer, and I grew up playing soccer my entire life, and then I played semi-professionally in Panama City. But my very first travel soccer team was Alabama Alliance in Dothan. And so big shout out to them, because if I didn't make that transition from Andalusia to Dothan, I wouldn't have been the soccer player that I was. So the Cosbys, shout out to them. Shout out to the Sprys from Dothan. Love them. They were very good childhood friends. And yeah, so yeah.